A lot of you have asked me, why is it that Tesla and other electric car brands don't go after the world's third largest car market? Didn't used to be third, but apparently now it is. India. Why is it that Tesla has decided to ignore India? There's a very good reason. This is what it is. Hello and welcome to the channel. Great to see you. My name's Sam Evans, coming to you from Melbourne in Australia. Thank you for tuning in. It's great to see you. So India is currently the world's third largest light vehicle market, and it's growing at a faster pace than any other car market in the world. It is. I mean, it's not even close. In India, in 2022, its vehicle market grew by 22%. I mean, everyone else is declining or maybe posting tiny marginal gains. So this is a massive figure. We're talking now a car market of 4.4 million. More cars are being sold now in India than they were in Japan in 2022. That's a pretty big deal. That's a lot of money on the table. That's a lot of money for Tesla and many other car companies to just leave on the table. So why are they leaving it on the table? Well, one, we have to point out the obvious elephant in the room, which is corruption. Yes, there is still quite a bit of corruption in India. Sometimes it's about who you know, if you grease the right palms, if you say the right things. Yeah, sure, this is not just confined to India. This is the case in, many countries around the world. However, it appears to be worse there than many other countries for some reason. However, there is a bigger, more significant reason for why exactly Tesla in particular have decided to basically ignore India. Now, they're not really ignoring them, but they aren't taking them very seriously. It's true that Tesla has just begun selling the Model Y in India, but only in very small numbers. And there's a reason for that. India has hiked taxes on cars and motorcycles imported into the country. That includes EVs. The tax hikes form part of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Made in India campaign for the 2024 elections. And they'll see imported cars costing less than $40,000 taxed at a rate of 70%. So these are affordable cars, right? Even these are going to be taxed at 70%, up from the 60% that they're currently taxed at right now. If the car costs more than $40,000, the tax rate is 100%. It is extremely high. Now you're probably thinking, well, that's imported cars, so why wouldn't Tesla build a factory like BYD is trying to do in India? Well, it is true that BYD is trying to do it, but for BYD to actually be able to claim tax exempt status in India, it's much harder than you realize. You're probably thinking, well, hey, BYD can have this market themselves. They won't have to compete with Tesla. They'll do really well, but it's not quite that simple. The import taxes of semi-knocked down cars that have major parts imported separately before final vehicle assembly is done in India are going to grow from 30 to 35%. These tax hikes come into effect on the 1st of April. Now, obviously, these taxes are already high. India is saying, you know what, they're high, but they're going even higher. This is a very protectionist market policy. What this means is that BYD's cars will probably never qualify for tax exempt status. They'll always have to pay 35%. The reality is that for BYD to manufacture all the parts needed so that their vehicles can become tax exempt and not have to pay that 35% tax in India, well, they'd need to set up billions of dollars worth of investment. That's not going to happen. BYD will continue to get battery packs for the vehicles it builds in India for probably the foreseeable future, at least for the next decade. So that means that it has a 35% disadvantage when it's competing with local manufacturers that do actually make batteries themselves. 35% is enormous because no one in the automotive industry makes a 35% margin on their cars. I mean, literally no one. So if no one even makes that margin on their cars, how do you compete with someone else when you have a 35% penalty? Well, clearly Tesla's done the maths on this and worked out the obvious. It's pretty much impossible. So all this means that completely built electric vehicles imported into India with a value of more than 40,000 US dollars are taxed at 70%. So there is a loophole here. Gasoline-powered vehicles priced over $40,000 have 100% tax, EVs only 70%, as if that's some sort of generous bonus. Now, Lexus and Mercedes-Benz are already complaining. Basically, legacy automakers that are outside of all that are selling cars in India are saying this isn't fair. And I think probably Tesla was saying, we told you so. Speaking with Reuters, the president of Lexus India, Naveen Soni, said that the car manufacturer may need to adjust prices of, well, all their models that are for sale because they now have to pay more in taxes. We hope to have better clarity once we study the overall impact, Soni said. The chief executive of Mercedes-Benz India, Santosh Iya, encouraged the government to reconsider the changes while speaking with the Hindustan Times. We wish for reconsideration of the current import duties for EVs to boost their demand, resulting in a faster acceleration for achieving the government's vision of sustainable green mobility ecosystem in the country. Yes, India has some of the highest import taxes on vehicles of any country in the world. The taxes are so high, says Car Scoops, that last year Tesla chief executive Elon Musk said the electric automaker would not launch in India because it had been unable to convince the Indian government to give it a reprieve from the tariffs. Basically, even if Tesla manufactures its cars in India, it still won't qualify, like BYD, on having tax exempt status. In other words, it still has to pay that 35% tax, whereas its competition, Indian manufacturers, do not. Is it true that the Indian government doesn't want its citizens to embrace electric vehicles? No, it's not. Actually, they do want them to. In fact, they want to embrace renewable energy as quickly as possible, simply because it's a mathematically sensible thing to do. So they do. But at the same time, they love this idea that somehow India will become a global automotive powerhouse, just like China. So what they're doing is taxing the hell out of everyone else that's not Indian in order to make that happen. Now, will that work? No, it's a scarcity mindset. Scarcity mindsets never ever work. I mean, for example, China had to do the exact opposite. In fact, they did do the exact opposite. And then what did they do? They learned from General Motors. They learned from Mercedes-Benz. They used their technology. They simply did it and made it better. And you can see what's happening now. Some of the automakers are growing at the fastest pace in history. They're on the verge of becoming global dominant players themselves. That's what India needs to do if it wants to become an electric vehicle manufacturing powerhouse. Simply taxing the hell out of the competition is not the solution. Thank you for watching.